Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and thank all four of you for being here today. We do appreciate your long service to our country. And, Ambassador Kennedy, do you believe that Congress has a responsibility to hold the government accountable?
Absolutely.
Okay. Do you believe that government agencies should withhold information from Congress, either classified or handled secretly in our classified vaults, or unclassified information that would be handled by our committees?
I am not in control of special...
But it's important that someone with your dedicated decades of service, ambassadorial level, you have handled a lot of classified information, so...
I am always prepared to share classified information with Congress, but I
appreciate
that under the rules of the House and Senate, it's House and Senate rules that give the Senate Select Committee and the House Permanent Select Committee on Intelligence privileges that are not available to others, and so I cannot jump over House and Senate rules, sir.
And I think we're all in violent agreement on that, but it is important that those select committees have information. If what I've read in the vaults regarding Mrs. Clinton's mishandling of classified information were known to the American people, as I've been in the vaults to peruse them, the American public would be absolutely appalled. But we can't talk about that. Instead of focusing on this mishandling and its subsequent obfuscation by Mrs. Clinton, by members of her personal staff at Department of State and by her attorneys, we are now seeing a typical play. Admit nothing, deny everything, make counter-accusation. Take the case of Secretary Powell. Listening today, one would think that he was somehow doing what was just normal for secretaries of state in the State Department by not securing things or not being in a proper closed loop with State Department communication. When reality is, General Powell said, the truth is, and I'm quoting, she was using the private email server a year before I even sent her a memo. He also states in statements that he had no recollection of a dinner conversation advising her to take such actions to circumvent anything. But it does bring up some questions, so let me ask them. Ambassador Kennedy, did Secretary Powell use 12.5 devices and make nearly all of them disappear and destroy some with hammers?
I'm not aware, sir, of Secretary Powell's, what Secretary Powell did or did not do with his private...
Did Secretary Powell or his proxies use bleaching software to eliminate any trace of federal records on separate servers after they had been requested?
I'm not aware of Secretary Powell's practices.
I'm not either. As to classified information, well, did Secretary Powell keep or provide private servers for any email communication?
I know that Secretary Powell...
Not a private email account like Yahoo or any AOL. We're talking private servers.
I do not see a difference in
distinction. Okay, I don't either. I think we're in the same conclusions. As to classified information, how is it that the Department of State staff, which are very able, and the FBI, which are also very able, were able to determine what top secret special access program information was, enough so to withhold it from Congress, and yet somehow we are to believe that Mrs. Clinton was somehow not intelligent enough to discern the difference between special access program information or not? How is it that the State Department, with all of their experience, and the FBI, with all of theirs, were somehow better qualified than someone who had been a United States Senator or someone who had been, say, a Secretary of State? How is that possible?
To answer that question, sir, we would have to be in another forum.
And we will, and so we'll get to ask it again. And let me ask you, in your experience, which I greatly admire, by the way, sir, administration to administration, I served decades in the military. I held a top secret, special compartmentalized classification in the military. I know how to handle sensitive information. I know you do too. Did you ever, in your career or experience, think it was appropriate to cut and paste from a classified setting, whether it was marked anything, but to cut and paste from a classified setting and to paste that information to an unclassified setting? Would that be a practice that the State Department, under any set of rules, would be appropriate?
It is not, sir, but I have seen in all the material that I've reviewed no evidence, nor did the Inspector General or the FBI find that the Secretary of State, former Secretary Clinton, did so.
Well, then we will have in the classified setting maybe some further questions to ask. This is what is exasperating. Since 1814, we the people empower the government, which we draw our power from the consent of the governed, to uphold the Constitution of the United States. I've been doing it since I was 18, now in a different capacity. We have a responsibility for oversight, and we must not exasperate the American people. They can see what is clearly understood, and yet we play these delay games, admit nothing, deny everything, make counter-accusations, put hurdle after hurdle so that the clock will somehow run out. Oversight is infinitely important, and we must provide that information. And with that, Mr. Chairman, I will yield back.
May I respond, sir?
No, we got to keep the pace going here. We'll now recognize